Good morning, everyone. I'm Anita Huberman. I'm President and CEO of the Surrey Board of Trade. Thank you for joining us this morning for our Digital Learning Lab. I just want to remind you that if you do have any questions during this morning, just put them in the Zoom function of the chat function of the technology, and we will get to your question after the presentations are over. The session is being recorded and will be sent to our membership and also through social media and also our stakeholders. It's a very important topic this morning, navigating your return to the post-COVID office. And first of all, I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the ceded territory of the Tsawwassen First Nations and the unceded territory of our Coast Salish people, specifically the Kwantlen, Katzie, and Semiahmoo First Nations. Also, I'd like to acknowledge that we also live, work, learn, and play on the lands of the Inuit and Métis. The Surrey Board of Trade is one of the top 10 largest business organizations in the country. There's 450 chambers of commerce, boards of trades in Canada. And what we do is we support business and we bring business into the city. We are Surrey's city building business organization. If you're not a member of the Surrey Board of Trade, or if you know of a business that would benefit from our diversified service portfolio of instigating change at the different levels of government, business support, trade support, cost-saving, time-saving benefits, and professional development webinars just like this, and hopefully soon they'll be in person. Certainly, you want to ensure that that business or that organization is a part of the Surrey Board of Trade. 15% of our members are outside of Surrey because they're doing business in Surrey. They want information about Surrey. And Surrey is going to be the largest city in British Columbia by 2030. And we are that information source, that support source for business. So ladies and gentlemen, before I start, one of our most active partners to support business is a consortium of organizations called Startup Surrey. And to tell you a little bit more about Startup Surrey, please help me welcome Margot Golly. Margot, over to you.
Thank you, Anita and Surrey Board of Trade, for allowing Startup Surrey to co-sponsor today's very important Impact Learning Lab event regarding navigating your return to the post-COVID office. Startup Surrey is a volunteer network of innovative business partners and entrepreneurs passionate to collaborate and inspire innovation. We are excited to support Surrey's business community and create infinite future opportunities in this region. Please be sure to follow us on our social media channels and check our website at www.startupsurrey.org to learn more about becoming a member or to learn more about our partners and connect to resources that support startup businesses, thanks to the Surrey Board of Trade and other founding partners. I hope you all enjoy the Impact Learning Lab event today, and let's continue to inspire our growing entrepreneurial community here in Surrey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Margot. And another great source of inspiration is our keynote speaker for this morning. And just a reminder, please put your questions in the chat function of the technology, and we'll go through a question and answer period after the presentation is over. This is a chance for you to ask questions, for you to get advice, for you and your teams. So please help me welcome business coach and etiquette expert, Margaret Page. Margaret, over to you.
Thank you so much, Anita, and thank you for those that are participating today. I would ask that you do put the chat as we go along. We will answer questions at the end, but I have some specific questions for you as we go along. I'm assuming that most of you are entrepreneurs, so if you could put in the chat your name and what your business is, that would be wonderful. And while I share a little bit about myself and how I came to be talking about this topic, all of us in the last 18 months have definitely been challenged with our businesses. Many of us have had to pivot. But what the one thing that is same for all of us is that we were together collectively and still are collectively in this splat of understanding how we continue to ride through the pandemic and come out even more successful than we did before. And of course, that's the goal of all of us here. So we have Simon, who's a VP of HR from Group Health Benefits. Thank you. Welcome to you. Colleen Kerr from the City of Surrey. Cheryl Scarfield with Sources Employment Assistance Service. Susan Christ, Administration, HR Finance. Angela Carruthers, Program Manager. So we have some diverse. Amy, welcome. Diversity, lovely play on words there. Carrie Jonathan, Principal Human Capital Strategies. Excellent, excellent. Thank you for sharing what your business is. It's always nice to know who else we could be reaching out to as these discussions evolve. So my next question for you, and I'm sure there's a few that are yet have not shared who they are. If you're uncomfortable about that, that's fine. I would like to know now what you are hoping to get out of this session with us this morning in the Learning Lab. So what would you like to get out of this session in the next hour? Go ahead and put that in the chat. Tips for our team on the topic: how to reduce anxiety in the workplace, to support staff feel comfortable to return to the office. I'll wait a few more seconds to have a few more comments in there. I just want to make sure that we get to the end of the Learning Lab, that we've met all your expectations and delivered on what you hope to get out of this session. Insight, transition, return, supporting multi-generations return to work. Okay, good. And if something crops up for you, go ahead and provide a supportive environment. Absolutely. Okay, I'd just like to make sure if I could get a thumbs up in the chat that you can see my screen, then I can go ahead and proceed. I was captured by the word etiquette. Okay, thank you for the thumbs up that we are ready and set to go. Fascinating that you should say that you're captivated by the word etiquette. I've had corporations hire me that said, we'd love you to come work with our staff and do some training, but please don't say the word etiquette. And so there's that spectrum of people who appreciate the word, and then others that let's call it something else. So we're here today to talk about navigating your soft landing, strategies for re-entering the post-COVID office. Now, if you've already returned back to the office, the majority of your staff, now I'm asking, go ahead and put that in the chat. Yes, we've returned to the office, the majority, because if you have, I'm going to be calling on you to provide additional insights, information. What were your, yes, we have the majority. Okay, Andrea, excellent. We'll be asking you to provide insights along the way because you have information that some of the rest of us don't have. And as you know, the situation is changing minute by minute. that companies have announced returning back. Many announced returning back in September, then October, and now some have positioned that date back to January. Some are already back at work and have some experiences to share that are valuable for the rest of us that have not returned 100%. How can we be better at it? How can we serve our staff better? How can we serve our clients better to have this the best possible experience that we can? And so the objectives in today's session is to help you chart a course to return to the office, to discuss amongst ourselves what our challenges and our concerns are. What are the things that we worry about? What are the things that we can do better? What are our staff worried about? And how we can glean that information from them, and how we can support each other in a successful return to the office. So the more information that we can share with each other of our successes or our challenges, the more we can all benefit long-term. And of course, that's one of the things that Surrey Board of Trade is absolutely stellar and fabulous for, is about helping businesses across Surrey to be successful in whatever that means. And so I appreciate and respect their willingness and their idea about providing this learning lab for you here today. So I'm just going to share from Simon. We used to be primarily office-based with 95% of employees working in office. We are eventually going to transition to a hybrid workforce with about 10% remote, 70% hybrid roles, and 20% remote. We keep pushing out our live date because it is so complicated. Indeed, it is so complicated. And with the fourth wave, or what's been classified as the fourth wave coming, Microsoft came out on the weekend that they had planned to return beginning of October, and they are pushing that out, and perhaps some may never go back to the office, or some may never return the way work was. So we're going to be talking about piloting our clear communication. That's going to be step one. How can we be really clear about the communication that we share with our staff? What will that launching re-entry look like? So that'll be the physical component about how we prepare our workspace to go back to work. And the third is about that first day at the office. How can we make that a smooth return so that our staff feel safe, so that our clients feel safe, and when we're interacting with our clients, that they do not feel any bumps along the way, that it's smooth service to our clients and those that we do business for or provide a product or service for. So the very first thing is about piloting clear communication. And this has quite a few components to it. So let's start at the beginning. And I just want to share a couple updates with you. I know the Surrey Board of Trade are preparing or have some sessions later in September that they'll give you further guidance on that, but I just want to briefly touch on them because this was the guidance for me as I crafted this model for you. It's the current safety protocols from the provincial health officer. Everyone 12 and under is required to wear a mask in parts of the office that are in contact with the public. So if your office is not in contact with the public, that will not apply. And you have some leverage there. You have some what suits you and your staff. Workplaces that are currently transitioning from the COVID-19 safety plan to the communicable diseases safety plan. So there's been a migration to a new safety plan. Having said that, we all know that things change on a daily basis in the last year and a half. And of course, we had yesterday where the vaccine passports came out. I have not included that because information on that was not totally clear yet. And so I have not included that. But if that applies to you, that you are required to check passports, then I'm sure by now you have been focused on that and are adhering to what the government says. And vaccines are not a governmental requirement to return to the office. And if you are encouraging vaccines is one thing, but insisting on it, then I suggest you also talk to some legal counsel about that to make sure that you're not violating anybody's rights. So I'm not going to give you any guidance on that, except to make sure that you have legal guidance on if you are insisting that vaccines be mandated within your organization. So what are the things that we can do to pilot a clear communication? For the first is ask, survey your employees about their concerns, fears, and challenges. So get your team leads to reach out one-on-one to employees or do a general survey all around. Find out from them, what are their concerns? What are their fears? What are their challenges as they come back to the workplace? For some, it's going to be about daycare. For some, it may be about their children. For some, it may be safety concerns or that they've become so comfortable working from home. Some, it may be that working from home, I put on 20 pounds and I feel uncomfortable about coming back to the office. I no longer have the clothes to come back to the office. Whatever their concerns are, it's our responsibility as their employee, as their employer, as their team leads, to know and understand what those concerns are. And I think no more time in history is it more that we need to be more empathetic to our employees than we ever have been. They have given and given and given over the last 18 months, expectations that they were on call 24 hours a day and that they needed to respond all the time. It has been a very difficult and challenging time for staff. And what we see around North America, at least, I'm not privy to as much data in other parts of the world, but people are leaving their places of employment because they've been living in this space of uncertainty for a long time, pressure with having to do all the things at home for their family and work in the same space. This has been presenting some very, very difficult challenges. And even though there may not be any jobs to go to, people are so uncomfortable, they are leaving places of employment. And of course, that's a very costly condition for employers. It takes us a long time to get someone up at a level. There's some statistics on that, or some years of or months that it takes you to get an employee up to the level that you need to. And so every time we lose somebody, it becomes a challenge. So our goal is to retain those that we want to. And so our first step is to ask and survey and understand them, be empathetic. Where do staff want changes? So it's not only about where are you at, where is your step, where are you at individually, personally, but what changes do you want when coming back to the office? And that may be around, I want to have my own space in the kitchen where I can have my own plate, or I want to have my own place in the refrigerator. I want my desk moved away from others. I'd like to have plexiglass in between. whatever it is, it's not only their personal concerns, but also the changes that they want to see at the office. You may not be able to accommodate all those requests. There may be some that may be unrealistic that you may not be able to meet. You have budget restrictions and challenges that you have to deal with, but sometimes it's only a matter of listening to them, and people like to feel that they've been heard. And if you can't meet some of those challenges, then it's important to share why. Our budget only allows, our space in our office is only so many square feet. Our lunchroom is only so many square feet. We have so many employees. So often, if employees understand the process by which we made the decisions and the why, often they can be made to feel comforted by that. And I have to say, particularly this last 6 months, this last year, what I am hearing from people or businesses, particularly around British Columbia and the Pacific Northwest, is if you create that space, that open space for people to have dialogue, and that safe space, particularly a safe space for them to share their concerns, that staff are opening up and they are feeling valued and they are feeling that you appreciate them and that you are doing your very best in these difficult times as well. So stay connected to your corporate values, whatever they are, bring them to the forefront and make sure that you make all decisions about what you will be doing in line with your corporate values. And that's about defining the guiding principles that we are moving forward with. Our value is, and I'll give a complete example here. So the first would be the guiding principles that your organization is going to take, and then the critical behaviors around that, and lastly, the visible actions. And so our corporate value is respect. And so what that means is our guiding principles are around respect and how we respect each other. Our critical behaviors is that we acknowledge each other. Sometimes over the last year and a half, as we've been walking around the street, sometimes you might even have crossed across the street when someone came up to you on a sidewalk. You wanted to avoid, and of course, be social distance, but you want to align that. So what will the critical behaviors be in the office? Well, if our guiding principle is that we respect each other, our critical behavior might be when we come to each other, we acknowledge each other. We acknowledge each other. And what the visible actions on that might be is we bump elbows together. We smile with our eyes at each other. We look each other in the eyes. And so it's your job as this piloting this clear communication to give guidance on that, and particularly on the younger generation, is be really clear. They value and appreciate that because many of them will be going into a space of uncertainty. They become comfortable with working at home. I know what to expect. I know what I can do. And now when I'm going back to the office, is it going to be like before? If it's not going to be like before, what will it look like? And if you use those three components, here's our guiding principles of our interactions together. Here's the critical behaviors that we will have, and the visible actions around this are these things. And if you are able to articulate to them, they will have a greater sense of comfort and and not be in this space of uncertainty. And that is important for them to be as productive as possible, but also for them to have joy and comfort in their day-to-day work life and whatever they do. So paint the picture of what reentry will look like. And so, and we'll talk about those later two components, the physical and then the first day. But in your communication, paint the picture. Half of us are going to start at 8 a.m. The other half of us will start at 9 a.m. or however you've defined that, but actually paint the picture, create the movie so that they create it in their mind as well. If you just give bullet points of this will happen, it's probably going to be still pictures for them in their mind. And if you want to make it as comfortable as possible, and not everyone will be in that frame that they like a movie, but many do. And so paint the picture, actually step them through. We'll work until this time. This is how we'll interact. There'll be masks at the front door. There'll be sanitizer at the front door. Our expectation is there's going to be gloves. So step them through step by step to get them to their desk through the day, through the lunch, through the coffee breaks, at the end of the day, anything that you need in the elevator, whatever it is, take the time well ahead of time before that re-entry day to paint the picture. So as those days come forward, during the daytime, during the night, they're going to be thinking about that picture that you painted, that movie that they have, and that's going to bring them a lot more comfort. Now, if you've already re-entered and you have additional information, please feel free to post that in the chat at this time. So use multiple platforms. Don't just think one time sharing with them about what re-entry will look like is adequate. It is not. They're only going to hear certain pieces of that. And so if you want a successful re-entry, you will want to share it in multiple ways. That could be a video, that could be an audible message, that could be a bulletin, that could be a Zoom meeting, whatever. Provide as much information as you can. Provide as much information as you can. The more information, the clearer you are on the expectation of the employer or the business that you work for, the better it will be for your staff and a successful transition from home back to the office. Express gratitude. Alan Mulally, who was the CEO for Boeing for decades, hugely successful, created really grew the Boeing industry. And then after he was retired, was called out of retirement by Ford, and he was able to help the Ford Motor Company turn around. He has been very explicit about his feeling that in North America, we have a gratitude gap. There's a huge gratitude gap from employers to employees. And so particularly at this time, we need to express gratitude to our staff. Thank you so much for the way you've been handling this at home. I know it's difficult because you've had children that are young that you've had to manage and help, and you have 3 people. You have your oldest son working at home and your husband working at home, and you've had to find office space at home. Whatever it is, express gratitude for the long hours, whatever. And we really need to up this level of gratitude. Now, a number of years ago, this is probably 15 years ago, so this information I don't have access to any updated information of this, but it has always stuck in my mind that there was some research done by the G7 countries about who pays compliments and who does not. And this was based on high school students. Canada actually ranked the lowest in regard to paying compliments. And I know from working in the US that you often get compliments when working in the US. In fact, at one point in time, I said, I feel like my head is this big because of all the compliments I've been paid, and it's hard for me to get in the door. So we really need to compliment people for their work done and close that gratitude gap and make them feel that they are valued. A couple comments here I just want to address. Leadership is critical in communicating reentry with data and statistics. This has helped our team transition quite fast. Excellent. So Andrea, if you have more data that you'd like to share, please put the link in for others. This is really about helping each other to have a successful reentry. Carrie, we have a gratitude gap at the workplace and in society. We do not practice nearly enough. Absolutely. And when employees have been surveyed over the last few years, and I can get to the actual years that this research was conducted, they said that I think it's the statistic is about 75% never received any feedback. They never received any feedback on how they were doing. So they were became disengaged. And that's certainly that has come up in HR over and over again, is the disengaged workforce. And one way we can re-engage them is to express our gratitude and appreciation for what they do, but also to find those moments of compliments. And it's about helping them with their identity as well. It's not only about the job that they're doing. Wow, that was a great report, but you are such a critical thinker. So help them with those identity pieces so they can step into a greater version of themselves, always acknowledging those identity pieces. All right, so step number 2 is about the physical relaunching, getting back into the workplace. And so the first item is about being flexible with your hours and your days. And I've noticed earlier there was a comment about how many percentage, 90% will be remote or 90% will be on site, 10% will be remote, whatever it is. Be flexible. Be flexible about the hours and days that you work, if that's possible. Some of you may not be possible that you can be flexible, but where you can be flexible, make every effort to be flexible. Be flexible about the lunch hours. Be flexible about the elevators. Be flexible about the stairwells. Whatever it is, be flexible and manage that as much as you can. So Andrea has put some additional information in there for all of us. So thank you for that, Andrea. And we've already, it has been brought up about considering a hybrid model. That's not always possible, and there's huge variations of what a hybrid model will look like. For some, that is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you will be virtual. Tuesday and Thursday that you will be in the office. Or a hybrid may be that so many people are in the office, so many people are going to work from at home, but we will have this Zoom link open where we can have discussions. Or the hybrid model of a satellite locations where you will engage people virtual. So there's many, many variations of a hybrid model. And be expansive in your thinking. How can we make this work? but also be open to asking staff, how do you see this working? Do you have some suggestions and ideas of how we can make this work, how we can be safer, how we can meet each other's needs more effectively? So be open to those flexible ideas and engage the staff. So communal spaces and desks, that's, as I had mentioned earlier, about the elevators, about the how close your desks will be positioned together. If you're having board meetings, if you're having staff meetings, how far apart are you going to put those? Again, based on the information that you received from staff on what's going to bring them comfort and what you are capable of doing. Because we all, as leaders, have to work with that, what we want to have happen, and then what we're capable of because of the limited resources that we have. And so hopefully we can accommodate everyone's needs, but often that is not possible. So preparation for that workspace is about cleanliness and safety. And if you were used to having a custodian in once a week, are you going to have them 2 or 3 times a week? Are you going to expect that staff wipe down their desks daily, wipe down when they use the photocopier, whatever it is? All that preparation needs to be done ahead of time. And as previously mentioned, paint them those pictures so they know ahead of time. We don't want them coming to the office with big surprises. Oh, I didn't know this was going to be the way this was. I don't like that. Give them time to think about it. Give them time to know and understand what it will be look like. But set expectations. If you don't set the expectations, if you're just hoping that they clean their desks daily, wipe it down with antiseptic or whatever you need to be crystal clear. Do not be wishy-washy about your language. Be crystal. Our expectation is the custodian is going to come in once a week. The janitor is going to come in once a week. In between, it's your responsibility. Our expectation is in the restroom, whatever it is, washing hands. Our expectation is that you will be washing your hands as directed by our Department of Health. So whatever it is, make sure the physical places are there, the soaps there, the antiseptics there, the masks there, whatever it is, those physical resources and materials. And the signage about it. And here I'm going to ask you to not be so vanilla about your signage and not so mechanical. Let's try and warm up the place. Let's try and make it feel comfortable for people. So if where you have signage, where you need to have signage to make it clear, although you've painted the picture ahead of time, you still need to reiterate that with signage outside the restroom, outside the elevator, outside the stairwells, at the front desk, whatever the case may be, but make it approachable, make it desirable, make it so we want to do it, not so it's so black and white that we feel cold by the effect of that. And here's a comment: we've hired extra cleaning staff who come midday to wipe down the office. Excellent, excellent. And if you're able to do that, if you have the financial resources to do that, make staff aware. If you are having extra service 3 times a week, 4 times a week, and it's an off hours, they won't know. But you need to share that information with them, what you are going above and beyond to make them feel comfortable, to make them feel valued, to protect them. That utmost, your foremost is their safety. Your foremost, your prime directive is their safety. But you do have to tell them if they cannot see it. If they cannot see it, it's your job to remind them or make them aware of the extra effort that is happening for them, for their care. So the final component is embarking on a smooth return. What will that first day be looking like? Are you going to be checking temperature at the door? But make the first day an event. Whatever it is, you want to make it a joyous. If you've laid the case, you've communicated well, you've prepared the physical space, now you need to make it joyful for them, or you need to make it so they want to be there, so that they will continue on, and that it won't be this harsh feeling by employees. Wow, that was just a nasty first day back. So whatever you can have, balloons, but of course, whatever events you have, whether they're banners, balloons, think in terms of safety as well. So it becomes a little more difficult. Small gifts to show appreciation, cards on their desk, snacks, a game board, perhaps that you have a game board, all items. But again, taking into consideration that whatever event you have, whatever activity that you're going to create for them, that they need to feel safe and that they're not forced into something. I had to sit right next to someone to work on a game. No. So whatever you choose, make sure that it's safe, they feel valued, they feel appreciated, but don't expect hyper productivity that first day. Instead, make it about that we want them to enjoy their first day back. We want them to feel valued, appreciated. Remind them that HR is there for ongoing support, and their concerns, their challenges, ongoing, and that we are there to meet their needs, both mental and physical. So if their needs aren't being met physically, then they can certainly let either their team lead or HR know. And of course, you need to translate all information back to HR so that they can, in the future, continue to create those guiding principles and critical behaviors and visible actions to support the staff. So make it an event the first day. You can even call it, give it a title, because if you've cataloged it in some way, then it will stand out more in their minds, and it'll have greater impact to them that, wow, they really thought about it. They really appreciate me as an employee. I feel validated, but do keep it safe. But cards are always appreciated, particularly physical cards. We could send a note of gratitude to someone via email, via text message. But if you send a card, or there's a card sitting there on their desk, that's something that they can keep for days. It doesn't just get read once and it's eliminated, or it just goes in the thread of other communication. A card is something that they could leave on their desk for days, could bring home to their family. Oh, look at what my boss thought of me when I came back today, and how they appreciated me. So think of all those things, and be cautious about the snacks. If your team is all about health, then of course you want to make those snacks fruit snacks, and you want to make it so that they feel that it's healthy, that it's in line with who they are, it's in line with your organization as well. So always constant alignment with what you communicate, what you actually do, and how that is executed. So and I wanted to share with you where some of the resources came from that I provided you with the information. Some came from WorkSafe BC, the Provincial Health Office, Forbes, and the Canadian Underwriter Association shared information that I shared with you today. So I would like to ask those that are in the room with us, what other pieces of information that you can share, what other concerns that you have at this particular time?
So let's go through the chat function. Thank you so much, Margaret, for your great presentation. We really appreciate it. Certainly at the Surrey Board of Trade, we reopened our office to in-person service fully. Most of the staff are back as of the beginning of July. And that was the second time that we returned back into the office because of the different waves of the pandemic that were at play to ensure comfort. So I just wanted to ask anyone who has any questions to put it in the chat function. But I just wanted to, go through some of the comments in the chat. Andrea Sorkoff, she says she was surprised when we came back to the office. Most were so excited to see people and to talk to them in person through a screen. This lowered anxiety and made everyone feel somewhat normal. And absolutely, I would agree with that, Margaret, because we are social beings, most of us. And for me, I'm a type A plus 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 personality. I get way more done in an in-person meeting, and you can read a person as well because I'm negotiating deals all the time, and it's better to do that in person. What are your thoughts about that, Margaret?
Absolutely. I spoke to a CEO on Friday and he said we've been back at the office 3 days, and he said the night before on Thursday he left late and there were 8 people and they were all, and he said, aren't you going to go home? And they said, we're so happy to be with each other. We just want to we like each other and we want to stay together for a while. So when you have built that kind of camaraderie in your organization and you have that kind of team flow, that's the desired, but definitely that's where you want to be, is where people want to be back.
And we get more done as a team as well when we're in person. It's certainly, there are cases where you just can't be in person. Every individual has their own circumstances, and employers do have to be empathetic to that. And we also, as employers, need to ensure that those that are working at home are also getting the work done too. This has to be a win-win for the employer and the employee as well. So I just wanted to put that out there too. Amy Johnson, she says staff have extremely varying comfort levels. Some are absolutely excited to be in the office and wish to be back more often, while others are very worried or unhappy about being in the office. And every office is different, right, Amy? And right, Margaret, it really depends on the type of service, the type of product that we're selling. If you're a manufacturer, it's kind of hard to make a product from home. You have to be on the floor. If you're in retail, you have to be in the store. If you're in the restaurant, you have to be in the restaurant to serve, to make that food. So not everyone, can work from home, but we're all dealing with different levels of anxiety, right, Margaret?
Yeah, absolutely. And the challenge, of course, too, is that their kids are going back to school and their partners are going back to different offices. And so that's creating another layer of anxiety about my child's in school or more than one school and coming back. And so all those things, we're under more pressure now than we ever have been.
Another comment is someone overheard someone talking the other day about how they had to write up a new protocol because their employees couldn't wear a mask and safety glasses at the same time. There's lots to consider, especially when you're on the manufacturing floor. Surrey has the greatest number of manufacturers in British Columbia. We have a large percentage of our membership that are manufacturers. And I can only imagine how challenging all of that is.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about listening and then being as flexible as you can to, and sometimes we can't be. I spoke to someone the other day, they were from San Diego and they had a tech company and they said, his parents came from Michigan to visit them at the beginning of the pandemic, and they have autoimmune disease. And he said, so in the last 18 months, I have been out twice. And so he's fortunate that his business, that he was able to accommodate that. But we were going to have staff that have different levels of concerns, but we first need to know about what those concerns are, and then do our very best to accommodate that.
One of the things, Margaret, the Surrey Board of Trade, were one of 9 organizations on the Premier's Economic Recovery Task Force. And every so often we speak to the chair or CEO of WorkSafe BC, and also with the COVID-19 industry engagement table with the Economic Development Minister for British Columbia. We have these opportunities to engage. So if there are any gaps related to advice that you need from government, just email the Surrey Board of Trade. We'll get the answer for you. And all of the checklists for the different industries are on the WorkSafe BC website. So for manufacturers, retail, etc. But if you're having trouble navigating through that very complicated website, they've tried to streamline it as much as possible. Just let us know too.
Yeah, you have a couple sessions coming up as well, do you not?
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Specifically to meet their needs.
yes, absolutely. And so just watch your emails and attend those digital learning labs. I just also wanted to suggest to everyone, we had to do our own health and safety plan for our employees at the Surrey Board of Trade. And Margaret, do you have any advice on how to keep those up to date? Provincial health orders continue to change. What's your advice on that?
Well, I think to assign one individual that responsibility to be in constant contact, whatever that means for you, maybe daily if you're engaging with the public on a on-site location, or weekly at the least once a week, and have that person's key responsibility, and continue to review that plan, align with that plan. And when there's any changes come up, of course, who's ever the decision maker there needs to be informed immediately, and action needs to be taken. But also considering the implications. Sometimes we forget what are the unintended consequences of this. So sometimes we as leaders make decisions, and then we're not good at sharing with staff why we made that decision. So again, clear communication, letting them know the why and the process by how the decision was made.
An individual in our participant list today put in a very good link about when we're returning to in-person events, and many of us are going back to in-person events. How are we going to greet one another? Participants are going to face a tough question. The link that's in the chat function says, should we wear wristbands? Red means social distancing, not comfortable to touch, elbows only greeting, or shakes and hugs, a green band, the elbows only a yellow band. What do you think about that?
Well, that's a fascinating idea. And certainly children in other parts of the world, when they go to schools, they have diagrams. There's, 4 choices or 6 choices, and they touch the choice. And that's how the teacher greets them, whether it's with a little dance, a high five, a hug, whatever it is. And so that works for children. It may not work as much for adults, but I think it's a very creative idea. And who's ever got the idea, I encourage you to see how it goes, if it catches on virtually. A great opportunity. Other organizations I've worked with have done research about the wristbands, and the young generation, when I'm talking 20 to 35, that does not appeal to them. But these are different times. What worked prior to COVID, is not always the case now. We have looking through life with a different lens. So, yeah, I'm excited to see where that lands.
Margaret, just a final question to you, just on your perspective. Do you think the work at home phenomena that we have seen, and yes, there's been great innovation in terms of employer-employee relationships, do you think it's a short-term panacea or is it here to stay?
Oh, it's definitely here to stay. It's definitely, and those that are introverts will continue to enjoy and appreciate those. And those that are extroverts are, no, I don't want this, get me back into the office as quickly as possible and around people. So the work life will never go back to what it was prior to the pandemic. There will always be this balancing of remote and on-site, in my view.
Yeah, and hopefully we won't forget the great lessons that we've learned into the future. Any closing comments that you have, Margaret?
Just, share amongst yourselves, share with on the Surrey Board of Trade social media sites, your successes and also your challenges so that others can learn from your wisdom, because we are all in this together. If you're not sharing the hurdles that you've had to overcome, then we can't benefit from that wisdom. So do share, and also share your successes. And the Surrey Board of Trade is a great place to share that information because they're access to so many. So thank you for the opportunity, Anita.
Thank you, Margaret, for being with us this morning and providing your advice and expertise. There's many more digital learning labs this season, and just check everything out at businessinsurrey.com. Thank you so much to our sponsor, Startup Surrey. And ladies and gentlemen, this session was recorded. The recording will be sent to you along with Margaret Page's contact information for any other advice that you may need.